We cool now? What's up? What's up?
There we go. What's popping?
Okay.
What's popping?
Let's talk about it.
So look, man, let's just dive right into it, man. I've been looking forward to this for some time. So let's dive right into it. Who are you and where you from?
Seaside Stretch from Seaside, California, Luxon Park to be exact. You know what I'm saying? That's who I am and where I'm from.
Okay. Now, for the people who don't know, what is it that you do?
I'm a label manager. I have a label, but I also manage artists. So
okay.
Primarily artist management.
Okay. And how long have you been managing? How did you enter the game?
The management game, I entered the game through my partner, Mr. Fab, who entrusted me to manage his career once, because I started off doing the Thiz stuff, you know, all the Thiz Nation going back then. And around the time of the hyphy movement, the Bay Area was getting a lot of looks. So everybody was on Fab. And I was on the label side with Thiz. So I ended up coming on with Gary Archer to co-manage Fab.
Okay. Now, what role did you play in the Thiz movement? What role were you playing around that time with the Thiz label?
Well, literally, in the beginning, how I met even Dre was booking shows, because I had a label in Seaside called Seaside Entertainment with an artist named Big Time. He had put an album together and was looking for a label to try to, you know, push the movement. And I was, you know, doing what I was doing at the time and was looking for alternatives to make legal money.
Okay.
So I started a label with him, and we had actually sold like 10,000 units out of the trunk. And we thought we was failures because we was believing everybody was selling 100,000. We say out the trunk, we was really selling it out of the trunk. So I thought we wasn't doing a good job. But then from meeting other people in the industry, I realized, like, okay, it ain't that bad. So what I started doing was booking shows to bring more light on the area and to my artists. So I met Mac Dre booking a show back in, I think it was 99 or whatever. And then it was right when Thiz had started, literally, because the Cutthroat Committee album wasn't even done yet. We was listening to it. And then I started working with Dre. Then from there, we started Thiz Nation, because he wanted to basically separate Thiz Entertainment from basically wanting to have an outlet, a distribution outlet for all the artists that he fucked with. So that was the start of Thiz Nation. So we started Thiz Nation, me, him, and Kilo. And I was always like the silent dude in the back. You know, the funny thing about it is the first Thiz Nation CDs, the first T-shirts, everything was out of my store in Seaside. My phone number, you know what I'm saying, was on the actual CDs. You can go back and look at all that shit. It's an 831 number. So
okay. So look, Stretch, I'm gonna need you to not be humble this episode. I'm gonna need you to really pop your collar. I'm gonna need you to not be humble. Who are some of the people you work with, and what's your current client list looking like for those just who don't know, before I get into my line of questions?
So on the management side, me and my partner Will, who goes back today from SMC, we have Killer Mike and co-manage Run the Jewels, Sage the Gemini, LaKaylee 47, 24kGoldn,
who's number one on Billboard.
Yeah, number one on Billboard. SOBxRBE in every form and fashion, regardless how you want to call it. Who else? Dare King, Pilo. You're gonna get me in trouble, man. A whole bunch of people, man.
So I just need to know, because a lot of the young kids sometimes are not informed about who you are and why they need to keep their ears open and their mouth shut. You dig?
Yeah.
So let's get into it now, Stretch. What is the role of a manager? When somebody says I'm a manager, what is the role of a manager?
I look at it as a manager role is like the person to help run the team that an artist needs to have. And most artists' team usually consists of a manager, a booking agent, a publicist, their label, you know, and then probably their whoever their team on the road is and stuff like that. So the manager's job is to kind of be the person that keeps the glue together for what the artist's vision is, and to handle all their business to make sure that things are going the way that the artist wants it to.
So the manager is always an employee of the artist.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's good.
The manager works for the artist.
So I'm glad, because We're gonna get to that later. Now, at what point does an artist need a manager? Because people are always saying, I just need some management. I need some management. At what point does an artist need a manager? And can an artist manage themselves?
That's a big misconception. I think that artists need a manager when they can no longer handle business themselves. To me, a team is always best as lean as it is. Like if you are able to handle things yourself and it's not impeding anything you're doing, then you might not need a manager. But when things start getting a little bit, a little bit too much for you, that's when you do. I think that a lot of artists don't take the time to develop their own audience at home or wherever and their own things before they start looking for outside help and thinking like, I just need this. Now, you need a manager when it gets to the point where there's questions you can't answer, or you don't have time to answer all these calls because you're in the studio, or these shows are coming, or you're trying to get these extra shows or whatever. But a lot of times people haven't got to square one and swear they need a manager.
So when somebody comes to you, let's say now they got a big song, does having a big song necessarily mean you need management, or is there still more work to do after that big song?
Well, it depends on what your definition of a big song is and what that artist wants to do. You know what I mean? Each artist is different. Some people want to make money. Some people just want to be heard. Some people, want to get their homies out the hood. Some, it depends on what your goal is. And each person is different. And each manager, I think, fits perfect for who, who they're representing. There's artists who I worked with, and as good as I am, I probably wasn't the right person for them. There was other people who you've seen, and you'd be like, you know what, that person is the perfect artist for them. Case in point, Mozzie. Like, I was managing Mozzie. Dave O was, always been a part of that. But at some point, it was obvious, like, he needs somebody that's going to be there with him on a daily, and he needs somebody that's going to help. Who's going to put this as his 100%. And that's what Dave O has done, and that's why he's been so successful. And that's why I think that each situation is different. On paper, it might look like, oh, this is great. But for that particular situation, I can't think of a better manager for Mozzie than Dave O.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to talk about on what criteria do you use when you're going to work with somebody? Like, what do you have to see in artists before you decide, okay, I'm ready to do business with you and manage you and help you get your career to the next level? What do you have to see?
Just honestly, just the hunger, because each person starts at a different place, and everybody was local at some point in time. You know what I mean? And it's not about where they are, it's about where they're trying to get to and what they're willing to do that. Because I look at this, and people have to understand, this is like being a professional sport. You don't get to the NBA if you're not thinking and playing basketball every single day. It's not a side hustle. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's a nigga in the NBA that's, selling dope on the side, or pimping bitches on the side, or, doing anything on the side, because it's just not enough time in the day. You're going against the best in the universe. You know what I mean? So you might get lucky. People get lucky, but if you're talking about maintaining and making a career out of this, you have to be 100% all in and 100% dedicated. And I can't be working harder than you.
That's good game. That's definitely good game. So you got to see that hunger. So if they just luck up on a record, that's simply just not enough for you to convince you to start working with them.
No, everybody who I've worked with, honestly, has been based off of just, feeling like these artists are not only good people, but I think that they really want to get to another level, and we can help each other get to there. And 99.9% is still an introduction to somebody else. It's not like, it's usually I know somebody who knows them who can vouch and say, no, these are good people, because I can't answer the phone to somebody every day if I don't like you. I can't be on the road with you if I don't like you. I can't be around you, because at the end of the day, I'm still a real nigga. So I can't be out of town and some shit jump off and I'm worried about what you're going to do. That doesn't mean you have to be a gangster. That just means you have to be, one, either somebody who's square enough to not put me in that situation, or if you put me in that situation, you're going to do the exact same thing that I'm willing to do.
So I want to ask about some wisdom. Like, when you work with somebody like Mozzie early on, do you know early, like, okay, he's going to make a lot of money? And can you tell who's not going to be as successful as a Mozzie? Can you see early on, or you just never know?
No, you never know. But Mozzie's a person who I can say, when I met him, I knew that I'm not gonna be around somebody who's gonna work as hard as him. Like, there's nobody's gonna outwork him. Period. You know what I'm saying? Talent is 10, but his work ethic is 57 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? So, and but you can't tell who's going to do what and who's not. There is no answer for buts. There's been stuff that I've worked on that, you know what I'm saying, I just felt like I really fuck with this, and I think this can be really good. It might be way bigger, you know what I'm saying, than you expect. And then there's other people you think it just could be timing. You know what I'm saying? There's artists who I worked with, I thought, and still are, one of the best artists in the world. Timing just didn't work out at that particular moment. It might come back around. One of them, I would say, is Irk the Jerk, is probably one of the most talented artists and still can probably, you know what I'm saying, be the biggest artist in the world. You know, his story isn't done, but at the time that we worked together, it just wasn't the time. You know what I'm saying? I think during that time period, he put out one of the best albums in the Bay Area. You know what I'm saying? But the thing that you can't change is God's plan and just when timing is for everything. But if, like Great Sugar Free said, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
That's real. So let's talk labels. You work with independent artists and labels. They don't have to be signed, correct? You work with either or.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay, so when do you take an artist to a label, and how does that situation go? You know, with labels.
It's dependent on the artist, like I said. So if you might catch a record, I have a moment, and you could be flat broke, and somebody offering you a couple $100,000 to $1 million. Now, what the fuck I look like telling you don't take that? You know what I'm saying? Every situation is different. You might have to pay something for your family. You might be going through whatever. So certain situations is different. If it's everything is equal, and I'm saying, like, if it's not about the money, I say you don't sign with a label until you have a hit record, for the sake of, I think that labels are equipped to push records, not artists. You know what I mean? You give a label a hit record, oh, they gonna run it to the top. You give them an artist, they might got to figure that out. They might got to, you know, figure out what they could do to make it go. I think most labels at this point are good at taking something from 70 to 100, but you got to get to 70. And I think a lot of times people expect the label to do stuff that they're just not equipped to do. That's not what they're there for. You know what I'm saying? They're not there to get you to 100,000. They're there to get you to, you know what I'm saying, 1 billion. You know what I'm saying? They're there to get you 100 million streams. They're like, okay, we doing something. That's what their job is. And I think that going into the situation, you know. So every person that's ever done a deal that I've been associated with, they knew what they were getting themselves into. And I feel that they've all, at that moment, made the right decision for what's best for them. Because like I said, there's a lot of niggas that probably turned down deals and wishing, damn, I could have made that money, been out the deal and moved on, or people who did take a deal, like, man, I probably took it too early. So I think it's really up to the artist. All I can do is give you the information, and you have to make that life decision on, like, is this what I really want to do? There's been times when I've told people, like, nah, you should do this or you shouldn't, in my opinion, but whatever you're gonna do, that's what we're doing.
Got you. All right, let's get in. Let's dig a little deeper, because, you know, I like to get a little deeper. If an artist does take a label deal, and you go in there, are you supposed to do the talking for them? Are you supposed to do the negotiating for them? What is your role when y'all go inside of a label meeting? What is the role of a manager?
Well, it varies, because somebody like me, I can say that, you know, people probably know that I know that part of it a lot different, because like I said, I came from running a label, distributing albums, you know what I'm saying, doing the stuff with Thiz, doing the stuff with SMC, doing all of that. So I know every aspect of putting out a record. So I'm qualified to have those conversations. That doesn't mean as a manager has to, because in a lot of times the attorney is the one that might have those conversations. So in some situations, the manager might just be having a conversation with the label about, okay, so if we do get the legal stuff figured out, what are you going to do to make me feel good as an artist, and why should I come here? You know what I mean? In other situations, somebody like me, we're going to talk through every single deal point. It wouldn't be with usually at the label. The first meeting is usually with the A&R. That's somebody who says, hey, I like your music. My job is to find music and to put albums together. That's what their job is. That's who you usually talk to. So then after you talk to that person, then you might talk to a president or somebody who says we really want to sign them. The conversations about the actual details, that goes to business affair, and that's either through your attorney or, you know what I'm saying, or directly with your manager. But I would always recommend, no matter how much I know, like I tell people, I don't do my own taxes and I don't work on my own car. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always going to have a professional, no matter how much I know, to make sure that what I'm doing is right. And I think that that's the other thing with attorneys. People need to understand the attorney works for you also. Their job is just to make sure that what you want is what's on that contract. And I think a lot of people, especially in hip hop, they let the attorneys kind of run that shit, but that's their fault for not taking the time to understand what they're doing.
Absolutely. Digging a little deeper, if an artist does sign a deal, what is the standard rate that a manager is entitled to for being a part of helping that deal?
Standard is like 15 to 20%, depending on what they're actually doing, and that's across everything.
So a manager is entitled to 15 to 20% of booking, shows, everything that
everything, because their
generates.
job is to make sure that they're for everything.
Hold on, let me get this clear. So even the streams, even the check they get month off, they streaming off Apple Music and Spotify, and a manager is entitled to a portion of that money also.
Yes, everything. Because look, we can do simple math. You know how people be like, okay, for you, let's say if the independent artist, they're like, I'm making X amount a month on their because you know what I'm saying, like, let's say if you're signing Empire, right? The greatest independent label there is. Shout out Empire. So let's say if you sign the Empire, most people are going to say, if you think somebody's successful, what's the number that you would say they're making a month on Empire?
Let's say somebody's making $10,000 a month on Empire.
And that's $1,500 a month for the manager. Now, where can you live on $1,500 a month?
In pretty much nowhere.
Exactly. So even if your artist is happy, you still only making $1,500, $2,000 at the most. And your job is to be there and do everything with them.
That's some game. That's some game.
See, like I tell people, a boss is somebody that pays employees. A boss isn't somebody that just makes money. And a lot of niggas don't want to pay people. That's their problem. That's 100% their problem. And I tell people all the time, I've been there, and I for sure would rather make 85% of $1 million than 100% of 100,000. But some people just don't see it that way.
Now, when you have a good manager, does a good manager take you from that 100,000 to that million?
Oh, of course. Yes. A good manager is going to help take you from wherever you can to the highest level. But also, the thing is people, I think, give managers too much credit for the art. Because at the end of the day, it's about the music. You know what I'm saying? That shit don't mean nothing if people don't like the music. And people have to understand the difference between what they think is good music and what people like. You know what I'm saying? Like I tell people all the time, I don't know what a hit record sounds like, but I can tell you what it looked like. And that means I can tell by people's reaction if it's a hit record.
Absolutely. Now, since we on the topic of money and shit like that, are managers obligated to be somewhat financial advisors for their artists, making sure certain things are paid for as far as marketing and shit like that goes? Or is it do managers stay away from the artist's actual finances?
This is the problem. This is a good thing. This is the Bay Area's problem. In the Bay Area, the artist ends up thinking that the manager does everything because the artist usually has his own label, right? And if you have your own label, that means you would have your own staff. So Empire doesn't have one person do everything. You know what I'm saying? There's a staff of people. So by default, you know, with most independent artists, you end up doing all of the stuff as the so-called label. But the fact of the matter is, if I have to worry about the things getting paid and all of that, that's doing a lot more than a manager. You know what I'm saying? You're no longer a manager because you got to look at it like this. So if my job is if all things are equal, right? And there's 24 hours in a day, and I'm working for you, and you have your own label, and I have to do all of your label duties as well. But then there's another artist over here, and they have an actual label. We're not doing the same job. Because they have people in place to do all of those things. And like I said, I've had that role and I've helped people and I always will, but I always try to empower people because it's not going to work if you don't really get a staff. There is no label without a staff. That's just you and your partners. That's it. And ain't nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with that at all because that might be that's all needed for what you're doing at that moment. But you can't expect people to do that job and not be compensated for it.
Now, let's say, you know, it's a hot rapper coming up in the hood and he got his partner managing him. How important is it to have these financial conversations? And at what point do you need to start having these conversations about splits and things of that nature? At what point does that need to happen in a relationship between artist and manager?
I think it needs to happen from the gate because a lot of things get twisted. Because if you don't, the one thing that people have to understand is it's usually not the artist's fault because they just don't know. I can't expect somebody to know. In today's society, you could literally just be making music for your partners, put that shit up, and it go crazy. Next thing you know, you in a meeting a week later with some white people in LA talking about they want to give you $500,000. And how the fuck are you supposed to know what that means? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I feel like the pace that things are moving now, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times people don't have the time to figure it out. And the biggest issue is niggas not willing to say, look, I don't know. Let me step away from this because I don't know and talk to some people that do. Let me get some game to figure out what this actually means and how this should go. Not just what I think I've seen on TV or on the internet and say so-and-so do they label like this, because a lot of time that's just not the reality.
Absolutely. So just moving forward. So now let's say you got you a client and you're having some success, the splits are right. And now you start picking up more clients. How does a manager prioritize clients, or is everybody treated the same, or is it really based on who has more going on? How does it work managing multiple clients?
Really, it should be everybody is equal, but the truth of the matter from my experience is just like you kind of go to who's working as hard as you. You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody is not answering the phone or somebody's not doing stuff or whatever, it gets hard no matter how much money they're making for you to put the same effort into them as somebody that's busting their ass. You know what I'm saying? As somebody who, you know, no matter what happens, they doing their part in their job. And the thing is like, it's simple. With I feel like as the artist, a manager works for you. If you don't want to do something, you can say that. It may not be the best decision for you, but you can say that. The issue that I have is when you agree to do something and you don't. You know what I'm saying? Because that takes time out of the manager's or what he could be doing to try to do something, and now you just don't want to do it for whatever reason that could be. And it's just like with any business. If I just don't show up at Roundtable, I'm not gonna have a job.
That's a fact. That's a fact. That's definitely a fact. So have you ever had a situation where an artist felt like you were putting too much focus on somebody else and not them, and then that became a problem? Y'all had to have a conversation about it?
Yeah, it has, and I think that there's times where that's been a real thing early on because I didn't have enough people. What I've done a good job recently is of getting partners of people who can be there and help with me, because I can't do everything by myself. And it's not about, just like I said, I'd rather have 10% of something, you know what I'm saying, than 20% of something that's making only a quarter of what it is. So what I've done is realize like I can't do everything, and not only with my company, but of also with a lot of the people, I'll just have a partner who I know can fill in for the things that I can't do and when I can't be there and all those things. But I think I do a pretty good job of being a lot of places at once.
Absolutely. Now, have you ever had to sever a relationship just because y'all wasn't meshing well, even though it was profitable? Have you ever had to cut off a profitable relationship?
Well, I most relationships they've not been ended because of anything more than just usually, you know what I'm saying, the artist bossing up and wanting to just take more control of, you know what I'm saying, of what they're doing, or just finding, you know what I'm saying, other people that they feel can do a better job. It's never been, I think, of like, oh, okay, I'm on bad terms with somebody and I just, you know, kind of move on, luckily. But I would say, no, there hasn't been any. Well, no, there was one artist where, you know what I'm saying, we severed ties based upon, you know what I'm saying, I think it just didn't fit. But I think it worked out best for them because the person who ended up managing them was probably the best person that could manage them. And I don't think anybody else could have done that job for them the way that they, you know what I'm saying, the way that person does. So yeah, that's happened before.
Absolutely. Now, what are some of the reasons artists may lose? Because you talked about timing earlier. What are some other reasons that artists may lose their buzz and they may not be as busy as they once were? What are some common things you see why artists lose some of the steam they have? Or it just naturally happens for everybody? How does that work from what you've noticed?
This is the thing, is it naturally happens for everybody except in flow. You have to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like if you don't stop drinking, you never get a hangover. You know what I mean? So I think that the biggest mistake that people make is when things cool down, they either slow down, stop, or they pick up bad habits. When that's just the point of music. We say this all the time, man, so and so cold. And then they drop that right record, then they write back. I think that's just how it kind of is. You know what I mean? Like things are
Absolutely.
going to go up, things are going to go down. Everybody isn't Drake. People aren't going to be on top all the time. You know what I mean? And people like that story. They like that rise, that fall, that rise, that fall. People forget. There was a one point when we thought Justin Bieber was dead in the water. He was the biggest artist in the world for a minute. Then we thought he was over. Then he bounced back on their ass. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely. I want to say you brought up Bieber. That got me thinking. So right now, one of the artists you manage has the #1 record on Billboard, right?
mm-hmm.
How does that happen to artists from San Francisco, California, get to #1 on Billboard? I don't even think that's ever happened before. How does that happen?
Well, let me tell you, it has never happened. No artist that I know of from the Bay Area has ever had the #1 song on Billboard. I thought Hammer did, and I looked, he got to #2 with Pray. So it's
Wow.
even a bigger accomplishment that I even knew. Because I for sure thought that Can't Touch This went #1. So it's a huge accomplishment. And I think that what happened with Golden is really simple. It's like great kid, great work ethic, found his lane, mastered his lane, and grinded it out to get there. People don't realize this is his 3rd platinum song. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like, it's not like he just did, like he's worked hard to get there. And the first record he put out, Valentino, it took literally 8 months for anybody to care. It came out and he grinded and did everything he was supposed to do because he believed in that record. And on top of that, the same record that you're talking about, he had it before he had met anybody or signed something. He knew it was a special record and he held on to it. So I think that, like, for him, the whole thing is just about him working hard, having a great team, of course, but most importantly, making the music that fit for this moment. And, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it's really about. Because at the end of the day, I don't care who you got. If people don't like the music, it is what it is.
Absolutely. So if you know it's a bad idea for an artist to not take a deal or to take a deal and you advise them, if they still want to do it, you as their manager, you still have to push through and do it even if you believe it's a bad idea for them?
Yeah, and I don't think there is a good or bad idea because at the end of the day, I've never been with somebody I've never had that problem where anybody who's made the decision, I felt the reason why they made the decision.
Got
You know
you.
what I mean? So it's not like anybody has taken the deal or turned down the deal and I felt like, oh, well, you fucked up. I think each person has, for that moment, they made the best decision for them. That it might not always work out the best way, but it for sure was the best for them. Because like I said, niggas say what they want. But even if you get $10,000 a month from Empire, if somebody got 500,000, that's
Got
50
you.
months
Got you.
at once.
Got you. So I want to ask some personal questions. What are some of your personal goals that you want to, because you just did #1 on Billboard. What are some of your other personal goals that you want to do within your career of managing?
Oh, that's simple. I want to be the first Crip with a PGOT. That's a Pulitzer, an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Hey, you want them all?
Man, I want them all. Cause like I said, where I come from, and you know what I'm saying, the people who come from the things that I've come from, we don't get here and still be real niggas. You know what I'm saying? We kind of get lost, you know what I'm saying, on the way there, and once they finally get there. So I want to be that inspiration for all the young people, and to be the first Crip with a PGOT would be some other shit.
I feel that.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I
Put
feel
Seaside
that.
on the map for real. Nigga
That's
can't
real.
say nothing.
That's real. That's definitely real. That's definitely real. Have you ever dealt with the artists that may, do a lot of streams, do well online, but then when it's time to bring people out to shows, it doesn't correlate? And how does that happen, if so?
I haven't, because luckily for me, I was taught early on by one of the best ever, you know what I'm saying, the touring game. So any artist that's ever worked with me, whether they liked it or not, they figure it out after a while. We've always put an emphasis on touring and hard tickets to get to that point, because that's the part that people don't understand. That's where the money really comes from, and that's how you really connect with the fans, and that's how you build. Because the song is one thing, but when people pay to see you and when they have that experience, that's how you go, and that's how you have longevity, and that's how you stay in people's minds for more than just a record.
Absolutely. So when it comes to shows, what is the manager's job with the show? Is they supposed to be coordinating the show, making sure they're getting the flyers and the graphic designs? Is a manager responsible for organizing shows as well?
In the beginning, yeah, you got to do all that. You got to find the venue. Sometimes you got to be the nigga at the front taking the tickets. I done been security. I done been the DJ. I done did it all. You got to do whatever until you get to the point where you have more help. Man, you got to figure it out. It ain't no different than anything you do. You know what I'm saying? If you got to clean the backyard and you don't have a rake, you better figure something out. You can't just sit there and wait.
That's interesting. So you a Crip. How do you deal with if an artist got a whole bunch of hood niggas hanging around? It's a bunch of hood niggas hanging around, but you doing all this work. How do you go about that situation? Do you be like, hey, you niggas got to get to work? Or do you talk to the artist, like tell them to do something? How do you go about that?
Like I said, I think that, no matter who you are, whether you're, a street nigga or not, people just respect real and authentic people. And I wouldn't put myself around people who don't do that. So whether I'm from wherever or what I am, it really don't matter, because I'm going to respect people, and they're usually going to respect me back. And if not, then we probably going to have an issue right there, and then respect is earned. But from my personal experience, I've been all around the world by myself. And when people see you by yourself and you comfortable in your skin, they don't have to know my story or nothing from me. They could be like, that must be a real nigga, because he's really comfortable in here. And the reason why I'm usually comfortable is I ain't did nothing to you. You know what I'm saying? And you ain't got no reason to have a problem with me. And if you do, I could probably figure it out faster than you can. Then you could probably, do something to me. So I think that, for me, it's just like, I'm not going to put myself around a whole bunch of ignorant ass niggas. You feel me?
Okay. Historically, from what I've seen, groups usually have differences of opinion, difference of vision, difference of goals. What is a manager supposed to do when groups have different visions, different ideologies, different opinions, different goals? What does a manager do when a group has, a difference of opinion and all of that?
Just push communication. That's it. That's all you can do, is just get people to communicate and talk and figure out whatever they have to. And most group situations, you're going to have ups and downs and arguments and whatever. But at the end of the day, the more that people communicate, usually the smoother it is. You know what I mean? There's always going to be moments where people may not see eye to eye, but it's like I said, it's ebb and flow. There's ups and downs with everything. But I think as a manager, you know what I'm saying, that's when it becomes outside of business, and you just have to let people work their personal issues out or their creative issues out, but just make sure that they communicate, and that usually what helps it. Because somebody might be like, I think we should sound like this, and it's not for me to say how they should sound, because I'm not the one who's gonna have to take the backlash if people hate it. So it's my job to just say, look, y'all have to sit down and figure out how y'all want to do this and come to a resolution, and that way we all on the same page.
Do you manage social media content? Meaning, if you see an artist post something that could be hurtful to the business on social media, are you telling them to take it down, or are you giving the artist freedom to do as they please?
I mean, I'll tell somebody, it's like with anything, I'll just let you know the repercussions. If you're willing to deal with the repercussions, it ain't nothing for me to say. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? At all. I can't tell nobody what they should or shouldn't do if they're willing for the repercussions.
That's very interesting. Now, when you going global and you seeing different people and you interacting with different people, how do you deal with being away from home for so long, pushing somebody else's career, just going from home for months at a time? Is it a mental strain? Is it tiring? How is it being away from your family and things of that nature for long periods of time?
Well, I'm an alien, so I think I'm just different. So it don't, and this is just what I've been doing. Before this, I was doing the same thing in a different industry. So, you know what I'm saying? I think it's not for everybody, you know what I'm saying? But for me, it just happens to work out. And I got a good support system, so it works out really well. But that is a real thing for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Now, as far as like if two of your artists you might be managing aren't necessarily getting along, do you ever try to be problem solver, or do you let their problems stay them and you just keep it business?
Well, I've never had no real issues like that. I mean, I've worked with people who might have their problems, but if they're usually it's people that are close to family, so you stay out of family business. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Like it's like I said, it just comes to just trying to get people to communicate. But I ain't never been in no situation where like niggas really tripping with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like that. I've been in situations where niggas partners might not have gone along with niggas partners, but then that's also something where that's other people's politics. And
Absolutely.
At some point, all you can do is just give information and, you know, hope that people kind of figure things out, but you can't get in the middle of that because that can go bad.
Absolutely. Let's get back to this label conversation then. 360 deals. What's your take on 360 deals?
I think everything is everything. So if somebody's giving you a 360 and they're saying they want a part of your touring, your merch, your publishing, and they're not doing anything to help that business, fuck no. But if somebody's like, I have 200,000 in tour support, that might be the reason why you make money. So that might be something to think about. If somebody's like, yeah, well, we're gonna invest into your merchandise company, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna give you an advance. It might be something to do. I think everything is different, and each situation is different. And I think sometimes people can't get caught up in what the terminology is and look at what the actual terms are. You know what I mean? If somebody's saying, I'm giving you a 360, I'm not offering you anything, fuck no. But if somebody says, I'm giving you a 360, but I'm gonna give you 250, you know what I'm saying, for your tour support. See, niggas ain't been out there when they on that road, and you making a lot less than what you spending, and you wish you had that tour support. Because if you don't get past that first 2 tours, there won't be no tour money. So
that's real. Some people in the comments are asking, what is a 360 deal? Can you briefly educate them what a 360 deal is?
A 360 deal is when a label gets a piece of 360 degrees of your career, everything, because their thinking is, you wouldn't be getting this money if we didn't give you the marketing and the promotion to make this money. Meaning that you wouldn't be doing these shows if you wasn't paying for this radio.
That's real. Do you think that's fair in your opinion?
Like I said, in some situations, fuck no. In other situations, it kind of is. Like, people always say, you get what you negotiate. You know what I'm saying? If I can't be offended if somebody asks for some shit. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean you're going to get it. If you selling a car, you say you want 3,500, nigga say I got 2 racks. You offended and want to fight them? You just like, nah, I ain't selling it to you. It ain't no different than a label. If you think you're worth 500,000, they offer you 250 and a 360. Shit, nah, just keep it moving. It's all business.
Absolutely.
One of my a good friend of mine, I had an artist, and he literally offered $50,000 to sign the artist. That artist got a deal for $1.5 million 14 days later. And it wasn't nobody tripping. He was like, man, we laugh about it all the time. He's like, man, I tried. I'm like, man, I respect it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Damn, that's a hell of a difference. That's a hell of a difference. So, Stretch, I gotta ask this question. What is it that, you know, that like radio? Is radio still necessary for certain artists, or can artists be successful without radio?
In today's climate, an artist can be successful in so many different ways. So if I look at somebody like NBA YoungBoy, I don't hear him on the radio, but he's killing and destroying. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you don't have to have radio. Does it help? Yes. You know what I mean? If you're looking for certain stuff, yes. But there's not one thing you don't have to be a streaming artist, because you might be somebody, you know what I'm saying, that actually sells tickets. You know what I'm saying? You might be somebody who, you know what I'm saying, still sells downloads or whatever. I think that in today's society, before, the majors and the labels kind of controlled how you got music, meaning that you heard it on the radio station, you seen a video on MTV, you know what I'm saying, and you had to go to this store to buy this song on this album. That's not it no more. Now you can listen to whatever you want to, when you want to, how you want to. So now the people have the choice. So that doesn't mean that there's one way things are going to work at all, because I can name 5 artists that I've worked with who've been very successful 5 different ways.
Absolutely. What do labels control? Do labels have any influences over streaming platforms or playlists or anything like that? Do labels have any control or influence over those?
100%. In playlisting, for sure. You know, they have a lot of control, but it's the reason why they have control is just because there's somebody that works at the label whose job is strictly to give them information about your song. You know what I'm saying? There's at least somebody that's talking to them at least twice a week, telling them, okay, yeah, you know, he just sold out this show, and oh yeah, the song is moving this much in this percentage. So those are things that we don't think about. Like, yeah, if you had somebody that had that kind of access and was that tenacious about giving them information, you'd probably see different results as well. the reason why Empire is so successful at what they do is because they have people that do that as well. You know what I mean? So it's all relative, but they do have control, not control. They do have influence on those things because also the people on the playlist will know if I put this in and it's successful, I know that there's an infrastructure behind it to keep it going.
Absolutely.
Not just like, oh, okay, that song was big, and now that artist is known as Mr. whatever that song is called.
That's interesting. So Stretch, when you get put on these playlists and shit like that, obviously it definitely helps artists, correct? When you get put on these big playlists, and it definitely helps artists. So when the artist starts making more money and start getting more exposure, the manager is also entitled to more money too, also, correct?
Yes. No,
Now,
not more. No, same percentage.
Same
It's
percentage.
Just a percentage. It's just
Same
a percentage, man.
That percentage stays the same. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That percentage stays the same. Now, I ask that because if a manager's like, look, I'm doing more than just managing, I'm doing this, that, and the third, I'm gonna need some more. Is that a healthy? Is that a fair to want to readjust and renegotiate if you feel like you're doing more work, or should you always stay firm with that number y'all agreed to at the beginning?
No, I think everything is fair to talk about. That doesn't mean the artists have to agree to it. You know what I mean? If you feel like you're bringing more to the whole thing than what you started off with or what was negotiated, then yeah, you should be able to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean the artist has to agree. There's situations where, you know, an artist might feel like the manager ain't doing enough. You just go along for the ride. It goes both ways. You know what I'm saying? The artist might want to have a conversation with you, like, hey man, look, man, you getting 20%, you ain't doing much of shit. Let's cut this down to 10.
Got you. That's fair. Now, somebody just mentioned, let's talk about rollouts.
Mm-hmm.
Do the managers play a big role in organizing a rollout for a project?
Yes.
You feel me? Now, and during these rollouts, what happens if the manager put this play together and the artist, doesn't necessarily listen? Is that a thing where managers say things and artists don't listen? How does that work when it's budgets and it's on the line and it's money on the line? How does that work?
Well, again, like I just personally feel like regardless, you still work for that artist. You know what I'm saying? You're a manager. You can be fired at any time. So if you're not communicating with them, then it is what it is. Now, if you communicate and all of a sudden they don't want to do nothing, at the end of the day, the person that gets hurt the most is the artist. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna be fine regardless because I'm able to, fortunately, you know what I'm saying, deal with other people. That artist, that hurts them. That's gonna affect them the most. That might be that could have been that launching point. That could have been a lot of things. So like I always tell people, it's like, man, all you can do is just put the information in front of people and hope that they take it. If they don't, then everybody got to bump their head, you know what I'm saying, a lot of times, but most of the time people figure it out before it's too late. That's all you hope for.
I'm going to keep it real, Stretch. Talking to you for this long and offline, it seems as if, like, I'm going to tell you once, but you ain't babying no fucking body, huh? It's like you going to get it or you ain't going to get it.
It's not that. It's not that. It's just that, like, it's their career. Because imagine this. If I'm telling you, no, you need to do this, you need to do this. And then that shit don't go good, and this nigga look crazy. Like, it's their life. Like, this is artist's life, their career. There's a point where somebody's not going to want to hear your music. I'm not the one who, if they make a song where somebody's going to be in their comments saying this shit is trash. They're not going to, you know what I'm saying? Academics ain't going to clown me for a bad record. You know what I'm saying? That's just not going to happen. I'm not going to go from people playing my music in the cars to their partners not even listening to the shit. That affects them. And that's the one thing I know and I respect. Like, this is somebody's real life and they real art. Some people don't just rap just to rap. Some people really feel this shit and they really take this shit serious. And only that, like, once you get an audience, you got to deal with that audience. I don't. I could be the nigga nobody know about still. It's not gonna make I'm not the one who has to deal with it. So I always try to make sure that I'm just giving people the information because I've seen too many of these, you know what I'm saying, these shows or whatever, or these documentaries or these flashbacks, and they like, man, I knew I shouldn't have did that shit, but I listened to this motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? And that was the worst album I ever put out. Man, that shit I'm not trying to do that. I'm gonna give somebody my honest opinion, but at the end of the day, they have to make that decision.
The 48 laws of power say never outshine your master. Is there such thing as a manager start to build so many good relationships, start to come up and start doing better than the artist? Is that a thing? And is that a dangerous thing? Do you have to like play it safe with that, or is that not an issue?
I mean, how big a manager gets and how successful they are, that doesn't mean anything. Now, if you want bigger jewels than your artist, you know what I'm saying? You want bigger cars than your artist. If you want to be on the stage, you know what I'm saying, showing up your artist, that's different. You know what I'm saying? But I think that at the end of the day, it's like, man, truth be told, nobody give a fuck about us except for the niggas that we make money and the people that do business with us. People really love these artists. They want to be them. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to change somebody's life with some words. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be the reason why somebody, you know what I'm saying, got out that hospital and was able to walk again because I inspired them. You know what I'm saying? With the way I negotiated a contract. You know what I'm saying?
Stretch. I think you've have more success than some of the people you probably managed in the past. True or false?
It's all relative. I would say false because, like I said, like there's not. Think about this. If a song comes on, no matter when it's from, you're gonna get a feeling. You're gonna remember what you was doing that summer. You're gonna remember what was happening. Niggas ain't gonna talk about that because an article that I was in popped up. You know,
you still gonna get paid from it though.
Money come and go, but you know it don't.
Hey, you so fucking humble online. You humble as a motherfucker online.
So you mean to tell me if a certain song come on, there's certain songs in your life that's always going to be a part of your life.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
Exactly. No disrespect, but who do you think affected people's lives more, Dame Dash or Jay-Z?
That's a good one. That's a great question. That's a good one.
Who's affected people's lives more?
That's a good question.
Or Lil Wayne? Birdman or Lil Wayne?
That's a good question. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a hell of a question. That's a hell of a question. All right, let's talk about contracts. How important are contracts, and at what point does paperwork need to get involved? No, it's freezing.
You said what?
Hold on, it's freezing. I want to get contracts. At what point does paperwork need to get involved?
I mean,
honestly, it's freezing. Hello? There we go. There we go.
I think that, you know what I'm saying, paperwork is very important. And even if not just paperwork, but also those actual conversations on those paperwork, what the paperwork means. But also understand, paperwork ain't nothing but something that's only important in court. It don't mean shit. It's a piece of paper that's used in court. So if a nigga's supposed to pay you, if he don't pay you, you still got to go to court to get paid. So, like I said, it's really important. But understand, it don't mean shit unless you're going to enforce it in a court of law. So.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. So, would you advise somebody if they just have an agreement, a handshake agreement? Would you advise that? Like, you know what? We talked about it. We don't need no paperwork. We just gonna do honorable business, and you gonna pay what you said you was gonna pay. Would you advise that?
It depends on what it is. If it's a manager and an artist, yeah, I've done that many a times because like man, you have to have a certain type of relationship with that person. You know what I'm saying? If I have to ask you to get paid, that's already a problem. Ooh. If I have to be like, man, you need to pay me, that's already a problem. I should. There's no way in the world I should have to do that.
Ooh, that's deep. That was some game. Yeah,
think about this. If you got to put your significant other on child support, that means it was already a problem. Whew. Certain things you just do, and you just pay your bills. I come from, you know what I'm saying, I come from a different era, and there was different repercussions. And I'm not saying there should be those repercussions, but I was always based off the morals and standards of the streets. And the morals and the standards of the streets is if you owe somebody, you pay them. You know what I'm saying? It's really that simple. If I go get some work from somebody, they shouldn't have to come hunt me down and come get my money. You know what I'm saying? So, but each person is different. You know what I'm saying? If you look at it as business, that's cool. There's certain shit that I've learned in the streets that I still apply in real life because it's the truth and it's right. You know what I'm saying? It's about integrity, honesty, and one thing, I don't give a fuck what you gonna say. There's not a nigga in the world that can say, man, Stretch bribed me and played me out of some money and all this other shit. Nah, you know why? Because I still have to be that same nigga. I'm never gonna be that nigga that's in the club worrying if somebody coming in or tripping on me on some money. Nigga, I done seen too many people get literally killed over money. So why am I gonna play with somebody's money? And I would hope somebody wouldn't play with mine.
That's a good one. And we talked about this offline, Stretch. So I want you to be candid when I ask this question. Relationships. You are excellent at building and maintaining relationships. How do you do it? And how do you code switch where you can have relationships with an artist that might be street or an executive at a label that might be square as a motherfucker? How do you do that?
Because we all have some point of that we connect on. You know what I'm saying? We're all humans at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So no matter where I'm at or where I'm been, nobody cares or looks at me as a nigga from Seaside. You know I'm Seaside Stretch because I put that on my moniker so people know where I come from, just to try to, you know, make the people that come from the same little city I come from feel as if like they have the same opportunities. But nobody knows me except for the people from that little city where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? So all the street shit I might have done, that shit only counts there. So anytime I go somewhere, that's based off of me as a man. It ain't based off of no street shit that I've ever done, because nobody gives a fuck about the niggas in those 20 blocks or whatever. So when I meet somebody or I interact with somebody or whatever, first and foremost, it's about being a man and just being a respectful person. You know what I'm saying? And anybody who knows me will tell you this. If I don't fuck with you, I don't fuck with you. I just don't. You know what I'm saying? It ain't no beef. It ain't no, if you on some sucker shit, if you a weirdo, I just don't fuck with you. I've never changed my phone number because I don't have to. If I don't fuck with you, I just don't. You know what I'm saying? If I do, I'm a answer at some point. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that whether it's the streetest nigga in the world or a college kid or whatever, it's literally just about being a real human and straight up on what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, we're still like, I know this. Niggas in whatever city don't give a fuck what I did anytime, anywhere. Did I do it yesterday and did I do it today, partner? So all that shit is irrelevant. You can be the realest street nigga. I've been the realest street nigga in the world, and there's not a nigga where I'm from that can discredit that. But there's not a nigga in any other hood that gives a fuck about none of that. They do not care. Period.
Well, Stretch,
all they care about is how are you now? Are you gonna respect me? You know what I'm saying? Can I respect you? That's what it's about.
The timer, Stretch, I need you to give some closing words to the people because the timer just came on. We only got it. Damn, that was an hour went by quick. So give us some advice to the artists that they need to know before this thing goes off, Stretch.
Man, work hard. Don't stop. Look at E40. He has never stopped, and he won't stop. Look at what has made people successful for long periods of time, and that's being consistent, having a good team around you, paying your people. You know what I'm saying? And don't be afraid to fail. That's what I'm saying for the Bay Area. Don't be afraid to fail. Do not be afraid to fail.
This was great, Stretch. We're gonna have to do this again.
Just fail fast.
Great. This was great. Thank
What's up, G? I see G Malone in the comments. What's up with my nigga, man?
All right, Stretch. I'm gonna hit you back, bro. Thank you.